Hello and welcome to The Quest on Rajya Sabha TV. I'm Rakhee Bakshi, and as we show you that this show tells you all about the vision, the career and life of a leading personality, and the leading personality this time is the Union HRD Minister, Mr. M Pallam Raju. Welcome to the show, sir, and sparing such time for us. Let's begin. An INT expert, somebody who studied engineering and technology, and today we see him as a HRD Minister. So let's go back to your early days, and how was it like in college where you were studying engineering?
I did my engineering in Vizag in Andhra University. It was a great experience. We got the fundamentals right. We played a lot of sport. It was an era which was a lot less complicated. We focused on our work, we focused on our studies, and we played. We had our fun.
But your father was also in active politics. And
he was a minister in the union government at that time.
So did that, his being a minister, influence you to join politics?
No, the politics was never planned out for me. In fact, our father was very clear that both me and my brother should make our professional careers. So it's only circumstances which have got me into politics.
And what was that?
My father had a stroke in 1989, and I returned from my job abroad to look after him. And Rajiv ji asked me to contest that election. So I had to make a decision. And when you are 27, you're very idealistic and you think that you can change the world. That's how I entered
Don't
politics.
you think it right now?
No, I don't regret the decision because thankfully to the party and the leadership, I have had an opportunity to make a difference in a very vital sector, and I'm working at it.
And you're also an MBA. You did your MBA from Philadelphia University. So how do you think your education as such, which is very technical in a sense, has helped you today in understanding things as HRD Minister?
I think education and experience definitely forms the basis for the way you look at things, the way you look at issues. And I think both my exposure in engineering and in management give me insights into how to deal with real life situations. And you know that our country has a lot of challenges, and my experience and also my education does help me in a lot of ways. And I believe that no experience or no education goes away wasted.
But let's look at two worlds. Let's say the international or global perspective and the India Connect. And when we talk about education, as you rightly said, huge challenges. So how do you think that looking at, let's say, rural India, its problems of education, and the entire macro level perspective on education in India, which you are beset with as a ministry also, that you'll be able to handle it?
There are a number of challenges at various levels. The important thing is to, make sure that our kids have their fundamentals right and they have a proper, learning environment. So I think this is what we are doing at the primary level and at the secondary level. We are trying to improve infrastructure, create an environment where education can be imparted in a proper manner. Beyond that, we have to strengthen the core of the education. So a constant refining of the curriculum, focusing on improving the skill sets of our teachers. These are something that are absolutely essential.
You talk about teachers, and the recruitment of teachers, especially at the grassroots level, is a big challenge, and connected to also the RT Act, which is very huge and comprehensive, but actually implementation is something which is not easy.
I think training the untrained teachers, finding the capacity are challenges, and we are working at it, but it's the more important factor is to find the proper people who are willing to be educators. That is one of the challenges.
How do you think that there can be a solution found in terms of training teachers or getting qualified teachers? What do you think we can look at?
See, we have formed a minimum qualification for the teachers if they want to teach. Beyond that, those who have already been hired, we are trying to retrain them, and we are trying to retrain them through the distance mode, through IGNOU and other open universities. And that is going to be a technical challenge and also a challenge in terms of the numbers who have to be trained. So that's something that we are working on, and we are confident that we will be able to make it.
And overall, you have said earlier also a number of interviews, and you've stated that quality of education is something you're looking at. Also, the states have to participate more in terms of cooperating, in terms of providing safe drinking water in schools or workable toilets, things like that, the infrastructure part. So how much do you think you're succeeding?
No, I think as far as the infrastructure is concerned, we are making good progress. The real challenge is in the learning outcomes. There, in terms of the interventions, I think the involvement has to come right from the panchayat level. It's not just the responsibility of the school management committee, which constitutes of 75% of which are parents, but the panchayati should get involved in focusing on the school, because that is going to determine the future of their kids.
So there's a roadmap for that.
There is a roadmap for that. We are encouraging panchayat institutions to take a more active interest in the school and how the school is functioning, how the teachers are doing.
So we are talking right now to Mr. M Pallam Raju, the Union HRD Minister, and there are so many challenges, as he has mentioned, that the ministry is facing, but what actually is being done and what exactly is the vision? We'll talk about that in the next segment. You're watching The Quest. Do come back soon. We are taking a short break. Hello and welcome to The Quest. Once again, we are talking to Mr. M Pallam Raju, who is the Union HRD Minister. There are a lot of expectations from him, but he's trying to do his best. So let's talk about what he's actually trying. At the state level, you want a lot of cooperation. So what's happening in terms of this?
I'm saying that I want cooperation right from the panchayat level. I want the panchayats to be more involved along with the parents and the teachers, and it has to be an engagement right from the community level. So this would definitely.
You talk about community colleges, the system that.
No, I'm talking about just local communities.
Taking it further. I mean, you also talked about that.
The next challenge is the skilling and creating the capacity for skilling in terms of the curriculum for the skilling. This is something that we have to work about. Because right now the perception of where we do our skilling, whether it's the polytechnics or the ITI, are that they're just academic institutions. I think the perspective has to be that it will be something that will be useful to industry and for society at large. And I think that is where we have to strengthen the linkages with the outside world to these academic institutions.
But is the industry actually coming ahead? And
industry is receptive to it. I think we will also have to probably reorient the people who are heading these institutions to have a more active engagement with industry. So that is what we are working on.
Number of bills which are pending, very important ones also. Do you think in this 15th Lok Sabha itself, are you hopeful that some of these crucial bills, like the Education Tribunal Bill or foreign universities, I mean, will they really see the light of the day?
Ministers live on hope. So I'm hoping that we will be able to pass these in the coming monsoon session. It's been a big disappointment that in the last two sessions, because of non-transaction of business, we could not make headway. But I'm confident that in the monsoon session, we will be able to make.
As far as foreign institutions are concerned, you have said the erring institutions, the names would be on the website of UGC, and UGC should be taking active interest in recognizing that. But how far do you think it's actually working out?
See, again, that is another crucial aspect where we need the cooperation of states, because eventually, I'm sure that leadership both at the state and the center wants universities that are responsible, who impart a qualitative education to our children. So and a university can only be formed by an act of parliament or an act of legislature. So states have to be doubly sure about the kind of people they are letting open universities and whether they are following proper norms. And this is where we are hoping that states would be more active. We have formed a scheme from the center called the RUSA, which will reward the universities and states.
This is a novel concept actually.
Yes, which will reward the universities and states for the better changes that they make for the betterment.
And how are the results coming in? Is there any?
I think there is enthusiasm. So we want states to make regulatory changes. We want them to be more active participants in the way their universities are functioning. And I'm sure that once they see states benefiting, the other states will begin to respond.
Connecting education to employability or vocation is very crucial, and you're of course working on that. But where do you think the gaps are and how it can be avoided?
See, I think the big gap that our institutions have is the gap with industry. Whatever education we impart or whatever skill sets that we impart, it has to be relevant to industry or business, because it's eventually commerce that is going to create the resources. So I think the big gap is the linkage with industry, and that is what I'm trying to establish, whether it is our institutions of higher learning or with our skilling institutions. I am working hard to establish a deep and a strong linkage with industry, where the relationship will be seamless.
You were recently honored by the Temple University, your alma mater, and also this whole visit to USA, where US said that cooperation would be the road ahead.
Yeah.
So what is going on there?
We have the strategic dialogue that is going to come up shortly with the United States, and higher education is a part of the strategic dialogue. And the seeds of which was sown by the Prime Minister and President Obama. And in the last visit of Minister Kapil Sibal as HRD Minister, he did take it to a next level. And my visit, we've tried to better on that. And we are working on several fronts, primarily, in related to the emerging technologies. We've had meetings with those people. And in terms of the concept of community colleges, which will again, create skill sets which are relevant to the local community and industry. And this is one area that we hope to take forward.
And one issue which is of course very current, and I'm sure you expect this question, this 4-year degree course in DU has evoked a lot of comments and criticism also maybe sometimes. But one thing that the opposition is saying, and Arun Jaitley writing actually about it and saying that wide consultations have not happened. So why do you think that the arrangements were not made actually?
So I think in India there's always apprehension to change, and I think that is what most people are reflecting. In terms of the time taken, I think the Academic Council decided on it way back in 2008, and the Vice Chancellor decided to take it forward last year. And the processes were followed. I guess people have different expectations of time frames. Some people felt.
One of the views is that there was less time to actually initiate and finish the process. So the deadlines given very short.
See, again, that is a matter of discretion of the Academic Council and the Executive Council. And when an overwhelming majority feel that they are prepared for it and due processes have been followed, there is very little that we can do except to monitor the apprehensions. So we have met a lot of people who expressed these apprehensions, and we have also spoken at length to the Vice Chancellor several times, and we feel that it is an initiative that should be taken forward. But that does not mean that we will not monitor it. We will be monitoring it very closely because it involves the future of a lot of children, and definitely we do not want to do anything that will create a disturbance in the system. But if these are well-meaning changes that have been thought out, and I think it is our duty to handhold and see that it is implemented successfully.
I mean, that's what, and you would see, as you're saying also, as an experiment that, let's say, the new Vice Chancellor is kind of, has started to do.
You can view it as an experiment, or you can view it as a positive change. So it's a way that you're looking at it. But nevertheless, it is a change, and whenever changes are done like this, I think there is always apprehension in the air.
Also because people said, why only one university, why not others?
No, I guess it is for universities to exercise their autonomy, and Delhi University has chosen to be the first to exercise its autonomy and to try out something which they feel will better the prospects of the students. So I think as a ministry we should respect that, but at the same time we should monitor it.
And now that you've said that you are talking to people, I mean, there are such meetings, or the feedback system is going on.
Yeah, see, I've spoken to a number of people in the past, and based on which we have questioned the Vice Chancellor, and we were satisfied with their replies. But that does not mean that I've stopped listening to what's happening, what people are saying. I'm still open-minded about it, and that is why we've constituted this monitoring team.
Okay, so lots again to talk to Mr. M Pallam Raju, the Union HRD Minister, but we are taking another short break right now, but do come back shortly because we will begin this conversation even after this segment. We are talking to Mr. M Pallam Raju, the Union HRD Minister, and you are watching The Quest. When we talk about skill development, even the PM has this vision of 1 million skilling by 2020. So what is the plan like?
Okay. The Prime Minister's goal is to skill 500 million people by the year 2022. We are working on it, but I think all our institutions have to respond. All our businesses and industry has to respond, and all the we have to do a lot of preparation on the ground. And the National Skill Development Agency, which is the newly formed agency, is tasked with it. And we are trying to coordinate properly with industry and academia in terms of the qualifications, in terms of what the curriculum should be. So the role of industry, especially the sector skills councils, is very, very vital in formulating the syllabus that is relevant to industry and in also monitoring its progress for implementation in the institutions.
As far as the single interest test is concerned, and some would say also, I would like to ask you this question, some of the doings of your earlier minister, one would say that you're trying to maybe undo it. I mean, but I'm sure you have the answer to it.
I don't think I'm trying to undo anything. I think what all Mr. Kapil Sibal has done has been very, very forward looking, and these are initiatives that have been executed well. But of course, I think we have to watch for the pitfalls and do the course corrections in its implementation. I cannot think of anything that I've undone, because I think all these have been well-meaning measures, and I think they've been and we are ensuring that they're implemented well.
Let's take RT a little more further, because this is something that is really being talked about. But in terms of really working on each of its aspects, do you think we were getting more ambitious, or are we really doing it well as we planned?
It's in the 3 years of its implementation, I think we made substantial headway, what has never been seen before. And I think it is important to sustain that momentum. That is why we've taken 2 CABE meetings where all the ministers from states were present. And despite minimal apprehension expression, most of the ministers have been supportive about sticking to the deadline. I'm sure that it will not be a perfect implementation. There will be shortfalls, which we should rectify in the coming years. But the good part is that we have 96% of the kids in that age group, in schools today, which is a big achievement for the country. That is the true human resource potential. But having got so many kids into school, now I think it is imperative on us to ensure that quality is not compromised. That is where we are focusing on learning outcomes. We are trying to strengthen the entire education system.
You're also involving parents, let's say, in one of these.
Parents are involved in the school management committees, in each of these schools. So if they take an interest, if the panchayat takes an interest, I'm sure things will go a long way. But as government, we have to suggest interventions which will also focus on quality.
I'm sure as far as revenue is concerned, you don't have much of a problem as such. But let's look at education at 2 levels, as I asked earlier also, at the global level and at the rural level in India. So our rankings, let's say worldwide, is not really also that satisfying. So let's look at the first level first.
Yes. Yeah, now you're talking about higher education.
Yeah.
Now again, as far as higher education is concerned, we have about, the general enrollment ratio is about 18.8%. And we hope to take it to 30% by the year 2020. And we have created a number of central universities, institutions of higher learning like the IITs and the IIMs in the 11th 5-year plan. But it is important to consolidate what we have started. We have to find the faculty, we have to make sure that the courses are going on stream. And parallelly, as far as quality is concerned in our educational institutions and universities, we are trying to make sure that they are compulsorily accredited. That is the first step.
Accreditation
is important. So since we couldn't get the legislation through, we have given the executive orders.
It is right now stuck, as you say, at the legislation level. So how do you really plan to take it?
No, if the legislation happens, that's fine. But meanwhile, executive orders have been issued both by both UGC and the AICTE to make it mandatory. And so all the institutions have to get themselves accredited. Now beyond that, if you want to be in international rankings, it is the quality of the research that you are doing, it's the quality of your faculty that you are doing. So faculty will not just come if it's a beautiful building. You have to create the environment that also ensures that they have a personal growth story. So I think that is what we are sensitizing the institutions to do.
So you're talking about research universities, areas of excellence.
Research, having those quality linkages with industry, so when professors come there, along with their academic duties, they also hope to do some research, also learn in the way, get some qualitative publications in reputed journals. This is their private ambitions. So that environment has to be prevalent in terms of suitable academics.
But the expenditure on R&D, are you satisfied with that?
We are definitely not satisfied. I think India as a country spends a little less than 1%. We hope to take it to 2%, but that can only happen not just by government alone, but by industry's active participation. And there has to be this seamless movement between both academia and industry for effective research to happen.
The number of dropouts, and I would especially say of girl child. We're talking about an environment where women really have to take up education in a big way. So is there anything specific being done?
As far as school education is concerned, we are satisfied the progress that we've made as far as the girl child is concerned. Great numbers have enrolled, retention has been high, we're happy about that, especially in rural areas, very, very remote pockets. We have also created hostel facilities for girls between classes 6 and 8. So that gives them an environment to stay back and study. So retention has helped. And one important factor that has also helped is, in making sure that there are workable toilets. So that has also helped.
Politically speaking now, in Andhra, Telangana is a big issue. And do you think it's a major concern, and what is being done about that problem that we see?
Telangana is definitely a major concern. It was a very, very, just demand when the region was a very backward region in the 50s and the 60s. I don't know if it is a just demand now, because if you look at Telangana today, because of the constant attention on Telangana in terms of resources over the last 2 to 3 decades, some of the districts are much more progressive than the districts in the other 2 regions of Andhra Pradesh.
What you're saying is very important. You're somehow saying at a time when there's exodus also from the party itself, which is a matter of concern, that Telangana should not be aspired for by certain section?
I'm not saying it should not be aspired for. I was saying that it was justified at a time. But now, when there's so much of progress happening, and as a state when you're growing, I don't know if it is a relevant demand, But at the same time, we are sensitive to the sensitivities of the region. Beyond that, I think politically speaking, I think responsible national parties should not be looking at the issue as a political opportunity. You should look at it long term. And there should be some solid basis for a bifurcation of any state.
And quickly, before we really wrap up the show, what's your dream as a minister and as an individual?
As a minister, I definitely want to live up to the big boots of my predecessors and to be able to make a qualitative change in the lives of millions of kids. And as an individual, I hope to be remembered for making a difference in a lot of lives.
Thank you so much and all the best, Mr. M.
you.
Pallam Raju, Union HRD Minister. And as you saw this conversation, there were a lot of things that he said about improving the education system in India and also bringing a lot of quality to the way education is right now in the country today. Hope you like this edition of The Quest. Thank you. Bye.